कहो एक बार हे मित्रों, सनातन धर्म की
जय हो। कहो एक बार हे मित्रों, वैदिक धर्म की जय हो। सनातन धर्म की जय हो, वैदिक धर्म की जय हो।
वैदिक धर्म की
जय हो।
आर्य समाज की जय हो। कहो एक बार हे मित्रों, सनातन धर्म की जय हो। वैदिक धर्म
की जय हो।
आर्य समाज की। Can you clasp your palms and chant Vishwani Deva with me? Om Vishwani Deva Savitar Duritani Parasuva Yad Bhadram Tanna Yad Bhadram Tanna Asuva. Om Shanti
Shanti
Shanti. Dharma Premi Bhaiyo aur Behno, all you brothers and sisters who love Dharma and who practice Dharma and who preach Dharma and take Dharma to the next generation, to the borders of the coming generation. O all of you Prachin Rishiyon ke Putro evam Putriyo, O you sons and daughters of the ancient Rishis of India. And I address you this way not because you're East Indian or because you're Hindu, but because you're connected to a line that is called the Vedic line. I had two people visit me yesterday and they came and said Namaste. They were not East Indians. They were not even practicing Hindus in terms of Havan. But they're reading books like the Message of the Upanishads, and they're reading Vedas, and they came to ask me questions. And they said Namaste to me, and their whole inner spirit is so much different from what they used to be. And so when I say, O you sons and daughters of the ancient Rishis, I'm including even those souls. For too long we have been too ethnocentric, meaning we're too East Indian and too also, well, we are Hindus and these are other religions, people from other religions, so we don't deal with them. We have to come out of that mold. We now have to go reach the human heart. And so from this pulpit of Maharshi Dayananda Gurukul, I join with you and you join with me in addressing all sons and daughters of the ancient Rishis, the first recipients of knowledge, the so-called Adam and Eve, if you may, the so-called Adam and Eve of all humanity. We need now, black people cry too, just as much as East Indians cry. And Muslims cry too, as much as Christians and Jews and Hindus cry. And the language of pain knows no color. The experience of turbulence knows no gender. Also, we don't address only men, or we don't address only women, or we don't address only adults. The time must now come when we address everyone across the spectrum. Point number one. Point number two, Panditji so lovingly spoke about knowledge, and that surprisingly or coincidentally is a subject for today. Knowledge involves a teacher, and knowledge involves a student. And between the student and the teacher, there's a whole process that is called giving and taking. It's like a long pipe that connects two ends. And this pipe is called the pipe of study and teaching. And for me to have knowledge, I need to go to a source of knowledge. If I want water, I have to go to the pipe. Whether that water is in the fridge or it's in a goblet, it came from a pipe. And for me to want water, and to have water, I need to go to a pipe. For me to want food, I need to go to a cooking area. Whether we took that food and put it out in a public area to sell, but it has come from a cooking area where that food is available. Or if it's not cooked, and if it's uncooked plant food, we need to go to wherever the source of that plant food is. And if you need knowledge, you need to go to a teacher. And I am a teacher too, and if a teacher were to come into a classroom teaching social studies and were not to teach but to read the New York Times and were to tell the kids open page 84 and read and we'll talk later, that's not a teacher. If a supervisor were to come into that classroom, that supervisor would give the teacher an unsatisfactory rating. If you are a teacher, Sanskrit, if you are a guru, you are an acharya, then you are required by the demands of your title to give out knowledge, and to give out knowledge in a non-grudging manner and a non-hateful manner. Today we seek to look at this subject from a Vedic Hindu perspective. Of course, it's there in other perspectives too. You have teachers in Islam, you have teachers in Christianity, and teachers in Judaism, but I don't know how you approach those teachers because I haven't quite studied those systems. But in studying Vedas, you learn that there is a whole psychology that governs the relationship between the student and the teacher. And the question is, how do we approach a teacher? And here we go. Let me hear you, Betty. Here it is. There's a pipe or a rope that's called study and teach that connects teacher with student. If you don't have that connection, teacher is predicated on student, and student is predicated on teacher, and you don't have this connection, there's no one called a teacher, because there's no process. There's no one called a teacher, and there is no one called a student. Here it is. Aritate jo nar jnana pipasu shuddha satya ho jigya. Again. Tate jo nar jnana pipasu shuddha satya ka ब्रह्मनिष्ठ गुरु के धिग जावे ब्रह्मनिष्ठ गुरु के धिग हाथ जोड़ कर शीस नवावे हमी शीस नवावे हाथ जोड़ कर शीस नवावे. If my kid, I teach French, and if my kid comes and he puts his head on the desk, and it happens, I perceive a loss of thirst for knowledge. And the other kid, his eyes are beginning to sparkle. Yes, Dr. Satish, what's to do now? And I watch that kid, and what is written in blue here comes to my mind. This child is thirsty for knowledge, and this child wants to pass his marking period, going over to the semester, going over to a 4-year high school diploma with a transcript, and in readiness for college. I see this kid thirsty for knowledge, and it's no different in the mandir. You must come here wondering, and I also have a responsibility. There may be a week or two, I may give an old pravachan, but my constant effort is to constantly research and find out what is there worthy of being given. And here we study the Satish Prakash. I've been preparing this all week at school, and I had to email it to myself. I just didn't do it in an hour. And I'm telling you that because I want you to know that not that I'm your teacher, there are many of you older than me, and I can't claim that credit, but as someone who participates with you in the whole process of studying and teaching, I've been preparing this whole week. How do we, with what psychology operative in our mind, how do we approach a teacher? And the thing is, the thirst